Angels waging war in the unseen realm. Global events fulfilling biblical prophecy. Eternal life. What lies beyond mortality? From analyzing the paranormal from a biblical worldview to the discussion of cutting-edge science and technology, conspiracy, discovery, special investigative reports. Unafraid to explore the challenging issues facing humanity. Welcome to another edition of Skywatch TV.
What is the modern church not telling us about angels and giants? Also, to our regular viewers of Skywatch TV, do you think that you know everything that has been written on giants? Well, this episode will prove that wrong. Introducing my panel from left to my further left, starting with Sharon K. Gilbert, one of the hosts of the excellent program, Sci Friday.
Hi, Josh.
Hi, how are you doing?
Doing fine.
And also host of Sci Friday and host of the regular Skywatch TV program, who I'm trying to fill some big shoes here. We have Derek P. Gilbert, author of, I just want to make sure that I get your subtitle right here, Satan's PSYOPs, From Eden to Armageddon, but the main title, The Great Inception.
Thank you.
Yes, excellent book. So good to have you.
It's weird being in this chair.
I imagine it is. It's not so much for me because this is where I sit for Multiverse, but yeah. it's
He's slowly going to take over your job, though. That's his
I'm
plan.
working on it. I got a little plan here. Yeah. And then, of course, Michael Heiser, Dr. Michael Heiser, author of Reversing Hermon, Enoch, the Watchers, and the Forgotten Mission of Jesus Christ. It is a pleasure to have you on the program again. All right, well, angels and giants, specifically the Watchers. Now, Mike, I want to ask you first, concerning the sin of the Watchers, why is the book of Enoch actually so important to this, and why has most of the church shied away from it? Many Christians are uncomfortable with the book of Enoch.
Yeah, boy, I could go a long time on this, and of course I do in the book. I think the short version is that Enoch is important because New Testament writers very evidently read it. Mm-hmm. And it helped inform their thinking in terms of what they wrote. Now, you know, that might sound really scary, you know, to some Christians, but think of it this way. If I read John Calvin's Institutes and his commentary on Romans, and then I was going to do a series, sermons on Romans, or write my own commentary on Romans, it would be really hard to not have John Calvin in my head.
Right.
Okay, it doesn't mean I'm plagiarizing him, doesn't mean that I'm going to pretend I'm John Calvin. It just means that it gets stuck in your head, and it in a helpful way. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with New Testament writers. They very evidently read, the book of Enoch, what we refer to as the book of Enoch. And it does help them make certain points, specifically in this area with angels and the abyss and giants and all this sort of stuff. It helped them put down their thoughts under inspiration that we have. So just by definition, that's what makes it important.
There's a difference between the Nephilim, which is a term that most of the audience is familiar with, and the Rephaim. And you actually go into that quite a bit in your book, too. What's the difference there? What are we looking at?
Well, actually, I think there's a strong link between the two. And the link between, I think in a broader sense, between Greek mythology and the Bible is a lot stronger than what we ever knew. And this is something that surprised me when I started digging into it. We know that the Nephilim were the giants who lived during the pre-flood days. Genesis 6, verse 4 tells us the angels who kept not their first estate, as they're called by Jude and Peter and 2 Peter, committed this sin by taking women and creating these giants, the Nephilim. In the Bible, the Rephaim, and again, this is the man who's written the dictionary entry on that term, typically referred to the dead, but often in the Bible, there's a sense that they're referring to the dead warrior kings of old. So you get a sense that these are like the heroes of yesteryear, the men of renown, which is what the Nephilim are called in Genesis 6. The only real notable case where they refer to a living being is Og, the king of Bashan, that the Israelites encountered during the Exodus. He's called the last of the Rephaim. But there were other groups that were identified as Rephaim that were pushed out of the way by God for the Ammonites, the Moabites, and the Edomites, the cousins, basically, of the Israelites. Moab and Ammon being descendants of Lot, Abraham's nephew, Edom, of course, being the brother of Jacob and the founder of the country of Edom. But about 20 years ago, a scholar named Amar Anus, who's written an excellent paper that Mike turned me onto, and I mentioned it to you, I'm sure, on the Mesopotamian origins of the Watchers, how the Mesopotamians knew who the Watchers were. This was a paper titled, Are There Greek Rephaim? And it was a study on the etymology of a couple of terms in Greek, one of them being meropes, anthropoi, meropes. These were terms used by the Greek poet Hesiod in his works Theogony and Works and Days. Those are the two works from which we get a lot of what we know about Greek mythology. And we think of it, mythology, these are just stories. No, that was their religion.
Yeah.
Okay? They took it just as seriously as the Jews took theirs, and, all the other people in the ancient Near East took their religion. This is their religion.
Yeah.
Anus argues that the root term for meropes is the Semitic root, anglicized as RPI, which is the same root from which we get the word Rephaim. Now, the meropes anthropoi was a term used to describe men who lived during a golden age that was ruled over by Kronos. Kronos was the king of the Titans. Titans were the second generation gods who ruled the world before Zeus and the Olympians rose up and overthrew them. And then Zeus punished them by sending them to Tartarus. Well, in 2 Peter, talks about the angels who sinned, the Watchers, and how do you pronounce that word? Tartarao?
Yeah, tartarao.
Tartarao.
The verb form, yeah.
Which is the only place in the New Testament that verb is used.
Yeah,
so that brings up
it's not a mystery.
Thrust down to Tartarus.
Now, why did he choose to use that word if we're supposed to just think of the Bible as just this inclusive thing?
Exactly right. Tartarus to the Greeks was as far below Hades, hell, as the earth is below heaven. It is a separate place. It is the place for especially gods who are on double secret probation. That's where they were put. So you've got a link there in the biblical text between the Watchers and the Titans. You also have a link, according to Anus, with this link between the Rephaim and these men who lived during the Golden Age ruled by the Titans, which would be the Nephilim. So we can at least theorize, and this isn't a theological point, a hill that I'll die on, but it seems to me if we accept the thesis that the Greeks really got a lot of what they put into their religion from the Semitic people of the Levant, and they got it from Mesopotamia. I mean, you can trace it all the way back to ancient Sumer.
Wow.
I think you can draw make a very good case that the Titans were the Watchers, and the Nephilim of the Bible were the Rephaim. The Rephaim were the spirits of the dead Nephilim. Now, here's the thing that really blew my mind.
Yeah.
In Ugarit, which is a city-state on the coast of Syria, the Mediterranean coast, the 14th century BC, 13th century BC, there was a king named Amurapi. He was Amurapi III. He didn't know it, but when he took the throne, he was going to be the last king of Ugarit. This was right before what scholars call the Bronze Age collapse. The Sea Peoples were rampaging through the ancient Near East and destroying all of these kingdoms, and Ugarit was one of them, was about to go. About 30 years ago, scholars found a tablet that they have translated, and it is it's a ritual, basically. And during this ritual, and scholars don't agree on this, so again, I'm not going to stake my reputation on saying I know for sure what this means. Some say, yeah, this is a summoning ritual. Others say, no, they were honoring their dead ancestors, not worshiping them. But during the ritual, it is clear that as part of the coronation ritual, the two previous kings of Ugarit are summoned. The Rephaim are summoned. We summon you, O Rephaim. And then they summon a group that's called the Council of the Dedanu. The Dedanu. What are they? Scholars know, but it never gets into the churches. This was a tribe that belonged to the people called the Amorites. The Amorites, to whom God ascribed some special significance when he told Abraham in Genesis 15, your descendants will return from Egypt in the 4th generation because the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet. What's the deal with the Amorites? The Amorite kings of Ugarit, the Amorite kings of ancient Assyria, and the Amorite kings of Babylon, because the Amorites founded Babylon. Babylon was a nothing state. It was an insignificant village until the Amorites took it over around the 18th, 19th century BC. They all traced their ancestry back to an ancestor named Dedan, from whom apparently came this tribe called the Tidanu or the Dedanu. They had a reputation of being fearsome warriors, warrior kings. In fact, the last kings of Sumer, the last Sumerian kings in Mesopotamia, who were wiped out around the year 2000 BC, were so afraid of these guys, they built a wall that stretched from the Euphrates River to the Tigris River to another river called the Diyala that stretches northeast from Baghdad. And they named it the Amorite Wall, which keeps Ditanu away.
Oh, wow.
It didn't work. It was destroyed. It was sacked. The Sumerian kings fell. The Amorites took over, founded Babylon, which is a byword for wickedness, spiritual wickedness to this day. But the thing that Amar Anus connected in this paper that blew my mind was that he argues that the root word from which the Greeks got the name Titans is Ditanu, the Amorite tribe Ditanu. So what we have, in my opinion, and again, I'm not a scholar, but in my opinion, this ritual at Ugarit is a summoning of the council of the Titans to bless the new king.
And we see the term Dedan in the Bible.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about that.
One of the nephews of Nimrod.
Right.
Coincidence?
No.
Well,
No.
yeah, again, I don't know, because now, were they actually summoning these beings? No, I don't think so. Again, I think this is PSYOP. This is people who've been convinced by these fallen entities that if you do this, you will get power. The enemy doesn't care what we believe as long as it's not the one thing that's true, which is the only way to the Father is through Jesus Christ. Now, this is Old Testament times, so Jesus had not yet appeared. But again, it was convincing the Amorites and their descendants that through these magical, or through these workings, these rituals, that's how you get power on earth, rather than through faith in the one true God, Yahweh.
We're going to have to go to a break in a minute, but when we come back, I want to talk about reversing Herman and how that gets into the Watchers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. What is the meaning behind the title, Reversing Herman, and why is the more on why the book of Enoch is so important, but how to parse it out with the rest of the Bible. So all that and more after this.
I will ascend into heaven. The war began in Eden when the dragon, known as Nakash, lured Adam and Eve into sinning with the lie, "Ye shall be as gods." I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. Soon, humans multiplied upon the earth, and rather than worship God, they fell down at the feet of dragons. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation. But it wasn't enough for the dragons. They wanted to do more than just own mankind. They wanted to destroy them, to forever keep them from re-entering the divine council. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. The war raged on, where fallen angels descended onto mountaintops, spreading fear and false doctrine. It is a war for the souls of men, and only a Savior's blood could change the outcome. I will be like the Most High. Satan and his minions go by many names and wear many faces, but their strategy has always been to imitate God's truth. We call this war for men's minds the Great Inception. Learn the secret history of the spiritual war. Learn the names of the deceivers and what their true aims really are. Learn where they have struck and where they will strike again before it's too late. The Great Inception.
We're in the middle of a battlefield surrounded by an enemy that we've been told doesn't even exist. The pagan gods are imaginary, we've been taught, just lifeless blocks of wood and stone. The Great Inception shatters that illusion. It took me 2 years to pull this information together, research into archaeology, history, ancient languages, to show that the Bible stories you've known since childhood are actually literal accounts of supernatural warfare between God and the rebel gods who decided to reject the authority of their creator. My hope is that after reading The Great Inception, you come away with just one question. Why haven't we heard this in church before?
You've been fighting in a war against an enemy you've been told doesn't even exist. Skywatch TV wants to change that to prepare you for the battles ahead. Beginning March 7th, exclusively from Skywatch TV, the Cosmic War Collection finally arrives. Featuring 3 groundbreaking books, a 5-hour DVD, and a 7-hour audio series showing you how real the supernatural War of Kingdoms actually is. Reversing Hermon by acclaimed Bible and ancient language scholar Dr. Michael S. Heiser, and The Great Inception by Skywatch TV's Derek P. Gilbert. You'll learn how Christ's full mission has been misunderstood for 2,000 years. Not only did he come to shed his blood to redeem mankind, Jesus was on a mission to reverse the sin of the angelic watchers who descended on Mount Hermon. You'll also discover how Bible stories you've known since childhood were literal battles in the spirit realm between God and the gods who rebelled. When you order the Cosmic War Collection from Skywatch TV, you'll receive Reversing Hermon by Dr. Michael S. Heiser, The Great Inception by Derek P. Gilbert, a new, exclusive, never-before-offered deluxe hardcover collector's edition of the Book of Enoch. The Real Clash of the Titans DVD, a special, never-before-released video compilation with 5 hours of teaching on the long war between God and the gods. And The Unseen Adversary, a brand new audio series on MP3 disc with 7 hours of Derek P. Gilbert interviewing Dr. Michael Heiser on the Watchers, UFOs, and the Great Cosmic Rebellion of Satanic Forces. A value of more than $100, yours for just $29.95. The Cosmic War Collection, available beginning March 7th only from Skywatch TV. Know your enemy. Order the Cosmic War Collection beginning March 7th by calling 844-750-4985 or log on to skywatchtvstore.com.
Welcome back to Skywatch TV. I am your stand-in host, Josh Peck. There's a lot of web-only content that if you enjoy the show, that you'll love these as well. I, of course, host Into the Multiverse, but there's also Sci Friday, hosted by Sharon K. Gilbert and Derek P. Gilbert. Oh, yeah. And it's a fantastic show if you like science and Bible prophecy, things like that. Where we are today and how science is advancing certain things that are to come, then you'll enjoy those. And there's also upcoming programs. We're going to have Skywatch Women, The Awakening, hosted by Joe Artis Horn. We're going to have a lot of cool stuff. So
we also have the daily updates.
Daily updates. For links to everything, go to skywatchtv.com. So I want to jump right back into this. Reversing Hermon is your the title of your book. Where does that name come from, and how does the Book of Enoch really define what all this is about?
Yeah, that question actually dovetails with your previous question to me about why Enoch is important, which also dovetails with what you were just talking about. Because Enoch is a book in the Second Temple period, this is what we call the intertestamental period, that preserves a number of things about, Babylon, about the Titans, about all of this stuff, and actually links it back directly to Mesopotamian material, Mesopotamian literature, specifically the tale of the Apkallu, which are inseparable from Babylonian religion because this is the era of Marduk, and Marduk is the one who punishes them. I mean, all of these things are interconnected. I like to call it's a matrix of ideas. Okay. And the story of the Apkallu, which is really where this starts, at least in terms of my book, the trajectory that it follows, that gives us the explanation for why we have Genesis 6:1-4 in the Bible in the first place. Because it seems like such an odd thing to mention sons of God, daughters of men, Nephilim. And
especially mentioning such a small amount of it. Right.
you get this sort of, to us, cryptic reference. Well, to them, it would not have been cryptic. To a literate Israelite or a literate Second Temple reader, they know exactly what's going on here. We've just sort of lost that in the church, and frankly, the church has, I'll use the word, suppressed a lot of what's going on here. Well, the story of the Apkallu, in brief form, is that you have, prior to the flood, these beings called Apkallu. They're 100% divine prior to the flood. And again, Anus is the guy who has ferreted out a lot of the primary data on this in the Mesopotamian cuneiform material. They are the ones who civilize humanity. So they're viewed as culture heroes to the Babylonians. Well, there are some gods, the higher-ups, don't really like humans because they make a lot of noise and a lot of ruckus. And so they come up with this idea, we need to destroy humanity with a flood. Well, the Apkallu are kind of appalled, by this. They don't want to go along with this because they have a different view. And so the question before them is, how do we preserve the knowledge that we've given humanity, to bring it through this period, this judgment that's going to happen? And so you have the story of the flood, the Mesopotamian version. Well, in their version, the story of the Apkallu, after the flood, when the kings are listed, they have an Apkallu assisting them, but the Apkallu are not 100% divine. They are percentage. The rest of them are human. They're hybrids. We like to use this word hybrid here. And this is hybrid not in sort of a goofy sense, but this is what the Mesopotamians are actually describing. That they mated with human beings, and this is the result. But it's a good thing to them because they preserve human civilization again. Marduk is upset that they did this and punishes them, sends them to the abyss. The Apkallu are referred to, as, Gilgamesh is one of them. Gilgamesh is Lord of the Apkallu on a cylinder seal. He's also a giant.
Right. And he's a hybrid too.
Right. Yeah. You have, he's this 2/3, 1/3 mix, So you have this whole backstory that isn't given to us in the Old Testament, but the book of Enoch has all that stuff. What it shows you is that Enoch and Enochian material, like the Book of the Giants from the Dead Sea Scrolls, understood the original context for Genesis 6:1 through 4 and preserved it in the way the story was told. And when Peter and Jude and other New Testament writers are reading that material, it leaks into the New Testament. This is why you have Peter's reference, again, to the abyss, to Tartarus,
Right.
And in the Greco-Roman world, that's the world you would pick to link with Greek readers who don't know all this Semitic stuff, This is by design, it's deliberate, it's intentional, and it preserves the original context of your Old Testament in this case, in these 4 verses.
Wow. Now, do you think, Derek, that the Babylonian version of the whole flood story, that, people were too noisy, God didn't like it, could that be considered as a PSYOP?
Oh, absolutely, because it takes the story and it reverses the responsibility for the flood. In the Bible, we know that it was because the corruption of humanity was nearly complete. The Watchers and the Nephilim had corrupted humanity to such a point that God said, we need a reset. We need to start over. We've got this one family here that I can trust. And through this family, we're going to rebuild the world. The Babylonian, the Mesopotamians believed that it was because their chief god, who would be their closest equivalent to Yahweh, Enlil, was upset because he couldn't sleep. And, in the Bible, going back to creation, God created humanity for his pleasure. He wanted to create mankind, and he called it good. In the Babylonian, the Mesopotamian story, humans were created to serve as slaves because the gods didn't want to have to work. So
nice guys.
Exactly. This is why we got to work so hard. These gods don't want to. They're too lazy to get off their duffs, and so we have to do all this work for them. And then, because of the noise, Enlil decides he's going to commit genocide. Well, the crafty god, the Promethean character, if you will, Enki, whose temple was at the city of Eridu, and it was the abyss. Basically, it was the Iabzu. The house of the abyss. It was the house above the fresh waters of the Tigris and Euphrates that were essential to life in Mesopotamia. He didn't want to disobey the chief god Enlil because that could be dangerous, but he walked up beside a wall where the Noah character, Utnapishtim, Atrahasis in another version, the Akkadian, I believe. Anyway, he basically says, "Oh, wall, there's a big flood coming. If I were you, I'd build a boat and get on it and take you."
So he's not technically...
Technically breaking the law.
And so when the flood comes, Utnapishtim and his family are saved. And Enlil, of course, is furious, but Utnapishtim is so, thankful to the gods that he relents and humans are allowed to live on after all. Enki, of course, is the closest thing you'll find in Mesopotamian cosmology to Satan, the Prometheus character. He's the one who created the Apkallu and sent them forth to bring the gifts of civilization to mankind, like Prometheus with fire.
Right.
so they can be as gods.
So, right, exactly,
yes.
exactly.
Wow.
And
So
of course,
getting, I'm sorry.
so again, it takes the whole thing and turns it on its head. Humans weren't, I mean, the flood didn't come because humans were evil, as in the Bible. The flood came because the chief God, is evil.
So if we're going to reverse all this and restore mankind to the divine counsel, your book, Reversing Hermon, mentions what, again, I think it's groundbreaking information that the church is simply not getting, that Jesus came for more than just to die for our sins.
Right. If you were a literate Jew, you're reading this material, you're reading your New Testament closely, you know where the ideas come from, you're reading your Old Testament, you know where the ideas come from in part because it's preserved in Second Temple material. If you are a close reader, you as a Jew would expect, as part of your messianic profile, what's the Messiah going to be like and what's he supposed to do? Okay, part of that is going to be reversing this whole series of transgressions that corrupted humanity. When I like to put it this way, and I do in the book, and when I'm out lecturing, it's like if you ask the average Christian, "Hey, why is the world messed up? Why is it so bad?" The answer you're going to get is the fall. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. But there's a problem with that. If you ask the same question to a Jew of Jesus' day, that's not the answer you would get. That's one of three things they would point to. There'd be the fall, there'd be Genesis 6 because of the stuff we're talking about, the transgression of the Watchers, corrupting humanity, and then there's the whole incident with Babel. The Deuteronomy 32 worldview I talk about in the unseen realm. Those are the three reasons why the world is just so messed up. And so the Messiah is supposed to reverse all of them. Not just provide redemption and a solution, for death, the resurrection. Not just take care of the fall, but he's supposed to take care of what happened, the transgression in Genesis 6, and he's supposed to heal the nations. Now, you get the first one all the time in church. You might run into the third one a little bit if someone bothers to preach the prophets. Right. Nobody ever gets the second one.
That's true, and I've never seen a book written about it, and it's such an important part of Jesus' ministry. We only have about a minute left, and this is probably a huge question for such a short amount of time, but I wanted to ask both of you.
What's your favorite color?
Yeah. Why should or shouldn't the book of Enoch be in the Bible, be canonical?
I don't think it is canonical. I actually say the question doesn't matter. Right. Because New Testament and Old Testament writers quote all sorts of stuff. They quote the Baal cycle in the Old Testament. Do we think that's inspired? Well, no, of course not. But it doesn't matter because if they read it, we should read it so that we can read what they did put in the Bible more intelligently. In other words, we'll be able to follow the path they want us to follow. We'll be able to understand what they were trying to communicate. So I don't have any, dog in the fight of Enoch being in the canon. I don't think it is. But again, my position is it doesn't matter. Just read it so that you can understand your Bible better.
Gives you an appropriate frame of reference to understand.
What he said.
What he said.
Ditto.
Well, that works because we are all out of time. These episodes go by so fast, but stay tuned because we still have a couple future episodes with Derek and Mike and, of course, Sharon and myself. So keep watching as we keep watch. This is Skywatch TV.